And so in the new season coming up, what's the date it comes out?
So The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist comes out August 16th, the Manti Te'o 2-part documentary. And then there's three more episodes every Tuesday after that.
Was Notre Dame helpful, or are they putting up roadblocks to get this made?
No, they were pretty. They were great. Like, okay. I think that like their first question, which I understood, was like, "Is Manti Te'o a part of this?" And when we were able to say like, "Yes, he is," and we're doing like a multi-day long interview with Manti, and he's going to be talking about this story in full context. From then on out, they were fully supportive. We interviewed Jack Swarbrick, who was their athletic director, and they had kind of some great archive on the season's run. And so they've been really good.
What was the most challenging part to get to come together for that one? Because I think it's one of those stories that you'll just never forget.
Oh,
and I think this, to my knowledge, this is like the first real thing that I've seen been done on it. Where I mean, I don't know. So what was the most challenging subject to lock down?
I think the most challenging thing is like this is a story that for Manti and Naya, the person behind the kind of catfishing scandals, is like I think for both of them, one of the most like humiliating, painful things they've ever gone through in their life. And I think for a lot of people on the outside, it was kind of a bizarre, funny story with a ton of memes and like, what, the girlfriend doesn't exist. And like, it was just kind of almost like this comedic, bizarre story for the rest of the world. But to get two people to be like, this is the kind of most humiliating thing that ever happened to me, and let's sit down in a chair and talk about it for 2 days, I think that's always a challenge. But I think it was like kind of right place, right time. Manti's NFL career was winding down. I think he felt like he'd never given like the full story on what happened and what this was all about and kind of how it affected him on and off the field. And I think he was like excited at the opportunity to like once and for all kind of tell his full version of what happened. And he gave just like an incredibly raw and vulnerable interview that I think is going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one, because that story, I just, like you saying, it became a meme. Like, we made T-shirts about that.
Yeah.
Play like your fake dead girlfriend died today or something like that. So it's one of those things where it's like you remember where you were, and like you said, no one's really touched about it other than making jokes. So I want to get to a place where you can humanize Manti, who like I am a Notre Dame fan, and it took this guy who was a great player and tarnished his legacy with Notre Dame and Notre Dame fans like forever. So I'm hoping this can be, are we going to see a redemption arc kind of for Manti, or is it kind of what?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mac. You want to talk?
I think so. I don't know. It's like, obviously the story happened almost like 10 years ago. So I think like you obviously just have the hindsight of being able to like grow and mature and get like a new perspective on it. I think there is like, he really gives like a pretty powerful emotional monologue at the end that doesn't really pull punches, because it really does kind of show the impact that this singular event had on this man's life and his career. And Naya obviously has kind of gone through a tremendous journey of self-discovery herself. She identified woman these days. And so it was just like a really fascinating moment for us to go back and touch base with all these people. It was something that we were like super, super grateful for.
I mean, I'll say this, that feels like it was what really made catfishing like come into the limelight. I feel like that fucking Nev guy on MTV, he owes Manti a little bit of a piece of whatever that show made, because that was
he a part of this documentary?
Nev is not in it, but it's true. Like when we started researching it, we're like, shit, like no one had really heard the term catfishing. Like it wasn't like in our lexicon, like it wasn't something super known about. And I think one of the cool parts about documentaries is you get to kind of peel back the curtain and find out like how these characters got to this point and place in time. And I think like going on Manti's whole journey from his childhood and growing up in like a very strict religious conservative community, and coming from like this like really like patriarchal family, and moving to Hawaii and like experiencing a culture that was wildly different than his culture in Hawaii. And like, I think you start to see an interior to Manti's life that he hasn't talked about before, that kind of maybe helps you understand how he got involved in this whole scandal. And so I think that's like the really cool things about docs, is you get to kind of peel back the curtain and get an inside look on like what they were going through at this time.
It's kind of incredible to learn how Manti could theoretically like fall for this, and just how much like effort and behind the scenes was put into into catfishing him. It was just like, I remember reading it, but doing this documentary, my eyes got like totally open to like, oh my God, I had no idea that this was all happening, but between Naya and Manti.